Welcome to part 2 of 3, maybe even 4. We'll see how this goes time-wise. I'm trying to keep these about 23 since my last one in Garen was about 30 minutes. I kept to 23 on the first part. And on that one, we looked at Absalom, we looked at Kadira, we looked at Taldor, we looked at Andram, we looked at the Chelish Empire, and Malthun and Mirmathus. The next one we're going to go to is a very, very dark place. You're going to see Nidal right there up in the corner. So Nidal is above the Chelish Empire, and Nidal is dark. If you want a realm of sadism, masochism, nastiness, tribals who grew into a society, that is Nidal. Nidal is a shadowy servitor state. They bow to the Chelish. However, I say that very lightly. Zan Kuthan is their main deity. Though they'll tell you Asmodeus is welcome in the church there, their real thing is Zan Kuthan. Now, there are some descendants of the former Kelid tribes. This is mostly a kind of a mix between Varisians and Kelids. They rose up after Earthfall. The warrior clans of Nidal cried out to the great beyond in the Dark Vale. And Zan Kuthan, who had made his journey over there away from his sister and father, the wolf, ended up into that realm and came back almost, I would say, like a chitin or you remember Hellraiser with the Cenobites? Like that. That's the best way I can put that realm. They have an umbral court, and the umbral court oversees everything. They speak the shadow tongue and shadow languages, and they're very much about the shadows and the Dark Vale. They have the silent enforcers. They're a nasty group of monks that do not speak, that are almost zombie-like in their devotion. They believe in self-mutilation. The Uskwood and the upper ranges are very much a dark corner. I can't wait till Paizo puts something out on this. You guys remember the Book of Vile Darkness from 3.5? This realm embodies that. It is a scary place. And people do live there that are not devoted to the Umbral Court, but it's it's a fortress. People that believe in piercings, mutilations, worship of dark deities. Zan Kuthan is the lawful evil order of the Chitin-esque type of things, but you got to remember that there's a lot of demonic influence in here too. It is a very dark place, and so if you expect there to be lots of glimmers of hope in Nidal, you remember the Doom from Conan, like that, and worse. It is a very cultish place, and yes, they do help the Chelish and the Thrune Empire, but it's an uneasy alliance at best. So that's Nidal in a nutshell. Druma. I like Druma. And I don't know if Druma will ever... Let's see, it's over right here. This is Druma right here. I don't know if it's ever going to get the love it should get of a realm, but it's kind of an interesting realm. It was well thought up. It has the Prophets of Calistry. Drumans are a trading kind of let's acquire wealth lot. They're very lawful neutral. They're capitalist curse. And it's the calistocracy of Druma. They're a very productive and wealthy people. They trade well, but they devote their last places to how much wealth, and they're varied with how much wealth they can make. There are dwarves here. Part of the dwarven kingdoms moved into Druma. They don't always believe the rhetoric of Calistrade, but they're respectful to it. There's the Drufas. The Drumans have mercenaries, and you'll see a lot of Druman mercenaries. The first mention of them that I saw in an adventure path was in the Carrying Crown when they were in Thrushmoor, and they were in more or less not Thrushmoor, but they were in the capital of what is that area of the world. And so, Detmer, Curse, and some of the other areas are really the realms for the Drumans. It is a very, not totally populated area. They do have the Prophets of Calistrade. It's kind of its own religion, and it's a wealth religion. And they have the Prophet's home in other places, and it's kind of embraced in that region just by the tribal people that grew up in there. They're not necessarily attached to the Taldorans or any other race necessarily. The closest they would come to would be Varicians, but they're different. They're very different. They're swarthy, almost the Cretians and the Sicilians would probably cover some of what they are. It's the best kind of reference I could give you almost on Earth. They'll trade their mother if they could. Now, the other area that's next door to that is the Five Kings Mountains. These are the dwarves, and the dwarves have an interesting history. They came out just before they went for the quest for the sky, and they went through the Skyfall. They raised sky citadels, and of these sky citadels, there are only so many remaining, and most of the ones remaining are in the Five King Mountains near Keona, which is right up here. There were some other ones in Belkson and some other places of the world. Most of those have fallen, and the dwarves are no longer there. There's also one down in the Mwangi area as well. The Five Mountain Kings are loosely aligned. They used to be very well aligned as dwarves, but you know how dwarves are. They don't always stay united to each other. They do have a high king. That's Borgrim the Hale. They have many settlements. It's a lawful neutral area. Torag, of course, is the main religion. And as you can see, it's mostly a mountainous region that they live in. Dwarves are all about the mountains and the metals and the things that they stay, and they stay true to that. They're not a government. They're just dwarven kings that work together where they can. They have a council that gathers in case there's tragedy or something that goes on. They're always worried about the Duergar, the dwarves that stayed behind in the first layer of the Dark Lands, which is you got Orv, Sekomenian, and Narvoth. They're in Narvoth. So, again, very rich in culture, a lot of goods and a lot of trades. There are other dwarven kingdoms. There is a kind of a dwarven gathering in Varicia, and we'll talk about them later in the Stovor Mountains up there, or the Cinder Mountains up in the tops. There is a dwarven settlement up that way that is very much like the Sky Citadel group and came from that. But the dwarves made their way to the surface, and this was their main kingdom that they formed. All right, so we're going across. Keonan. I love Keonan. Keonan is the Elfin Kingdom. The Second Darkness talks a lot about Keonan. It's an adventure path that Paizo did. Keonan has a government, and the queen is over that government. Now, what happened is, during the time when they had Starfall, when the Aboleths tried to wipe out the mankind and all the other races, the elves went to Castrovel, one of the other worlds, supposedly. That's the history we know. They came back from Castrovel to find their kingdom. They left a satellite group in Keonan to try to keep what they had. Unfortunately, Tree Razor, the demon of yuck and blights and other things, came in and tried to take part of the realm for his own. And Tree Razor wasn't very nice about it. Tree Razor literally came in and like a wrecking ball kind of like our favorite singer there. I came in like a wrecking ball. As you can see, beautiful, gorgeous kingdoms in Keonan. That's the capital city there of Ayadara. And Ayadara, they left the world in what was called the Elf Gates and came back what they could with the functioning Elf Gates that were left. So you're going to see Tanglebriar at the bottom. That's where Tree Razor took over and started spreading his poison on the world. The half-elves came in from the areas that were still populated and tried to push them back. And so Erebrecht and some of the other areas, they really formed the vanguard to push back Tree Razor. And so it's a constant battle going on. Now, there is the queen, which is Queen Tilandia Edesseril, who rules things. Beautiful queen. And she's very thoughtful, but she's kind of an upstart. And so there is a elven court called the Shadow Court. And the Shadow Court kind of keeps things in order. And she has fallen kind of at odds with them. So what would normally protect the king or queen of the realm is not protecting her as much right now. And I'll leave it there. You'll have to do a little digging and find out, but there's a lot of intrigue that goes on in that area, especially with the Fae and with the elves and the half-elves and how they look at each other, and the Shadow Court and how they look at each other. So keep in mind, Keonan is an area that is very much about beauty, but there's a lot of upheaval too, and secret things going on. So keep this in mind, that there is so much going on there that you have to really look at whether you want to send. You can develop a whole campaign about fighting Tree Razor, the demon, and his minions. And I think it would be an interesting campaign to run. And it would make for just a fun place to run, serving the Queen or the Shadow Council, whichever you want to serve. So Keonan, great place. Now, let's go to Galt. Oh, that's one that's been cried out about to have some adventure paths and things developed. Galt sits on the other side of two realms, Keonan and I believe the River Kingdoms, which the River Kingdoms are another neat place we'll talk about. But I think we're going to get through a couple more in this one. Galt and the River Kingdoms. So if you look at Galt and where Galt is placed, Galt is right here. Okay? They're kind of a Tal'Doran bunch. I don't know how to necessarily put them. They were a merchant area that kind of grew up, and they fell to the Chelish Empire in the Eventung conquest. They were a Tal'Doran satellite. The Galtians are about upheaval, and the Kingdom of Isarn, it's just this. Think the French Revolution, but ongoing. And it's just, it keeps going and going. And no government stays the same because the Grey Gardeners step in. And they're a vigilante force that believes that when the nobles and the government does not serve the people, the citizen government, that it is basically overthrown. And right now, Citizen Corin Goss is the chairman of the Revolutionary Council that sits there. But if he finds political enemies, you might get named to be eliminated by the Gardeners. Or the Gardeners might come in and do otherwise. They're basically a roguish assassin lot for hire that gets rid of things for the Revolutionary Council, the enemies. It is a revolutionary anarchy. So if you want a country full of anarchists, this is it. They speak both Common and Hallett. There's a lot of Kelids that grew up in that area that survived and became civilized in this area, as well as Tal'Dorans. Lot of different deities. Calistria, Caden, Kaleen, Erastil, Ayamade, Norgorber, and Shellen. So keep in mind, this is a bloody area. In fact, some of it gets brought in the Strange Aeons path. You get to see a little snippet of it. It is very much undeveloped yet, with a lot of history. It's a great area to try to throw your adventures into if you want to as a GM, just because it is a revolutionary anarchy that is in a constant anarchist state. So you could get acrossways with the Grey Gardener very easily and tick them off and become their enemy of that government very quickly with the citizen government. So that is Galt. Let's go next to the River Kingdoms. Now, I love the River Kingdoms, and they actually have a whole book written on the River Kingdoms. So it's the people of the river that is in the Player's Guide. That is a real good one. Also, the Kingmaker takes place in River Kingdoms. And so let's take a look at the River Kingdoms, shall we? Here they are. So the River Kingdoms, I love this because it kind of shows that each of the River Kingdoms has its own fiefdom. It is a bunch of opportunistic people that have either moved out of Galt with the Revolutionary Council and settled here, or moved in from Brevoy and some of the other surrounding regions. These are the River Kingdoms. As you can see the dotted lines, there's a whole bunch of them. So I won't go through them all, but there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 River Kingdom cities, each one markedly different. So you can go from rogues and scoundrels to a druid run area to a fight club type of realm where everyone is pit fighters, to a den of thieves, to charlatans, to river pirates. It is just one flaming mess after another in the River Kingdoms. So you want a place that you can put your characters and your players and have change every city, and every city's a new realm. This is it. And you want to take your own kingdom and become your own kingmaker. This is it. You can become a king of your own kingdom in this area, or queen. Keep that in mind. This is just so much fun, and there are so many different deities that are worshipped here. You're never going to get tired of the intrigue that goes on. Now, the people are a good, stalwart people. They're an agrarian society. They believe in definitely living off the land and growing things. They try to do their own woodwork, and they try to do their own metalwork. Unfortunately, the governments unfairly tax them. But these are the base of the people. And generally, they're a little bit distrusting, but they're a hardy people. And they've learned to survive in some very nasty conditions. And honestly, kings come and go to them. They're like, whatever. It's just one change after the other. So that's the River Kingdoms. Fun place. Let's keep moving up north on that side of the map from the River Kingdoms to, we're going to hit Ramzaran and then probably end with Brevoy. So there's Ramzaran right here on Lake Incarthian. It is a country of a cult, the cult of Ramzir. Ramzir is seen as the living god. And so everybody in his cult wears masks. And they rise up. And it's its own secret theocracy. They use magic and call it clerical magic because they say that the living god gives it to them. It is lawful evil, and Throne Step is the thing. It is the city. And Throne Step has a throne that you literally rise. And the priests of Ramzir all have their own little cult. And they go out to some of the other surrounding nations and bring in followers and devotees to the living god Ramzir. And from there, they raise them up into this greedy, hedonistic, lawful evil, fascist theocracy. And so they're almost always at some sort of machination going on. They do not believe in any other religions. So if you worship any other god and go there or goddess, you better convert to Ramsir or die. The steps of the living God are the acolyte of the first step. Then there's a priest of the third step. And then the herald of the eighth step. Mask of the 12th step. And then you get to the vision of the 15th. So you really rise up in the theocracy. They have some things on the living God in adventures. It is a very nasty place. And in fact, Ustalav sees, as well as Keonan and the River Kingdoms, a lot of Ramsiran pilgrims coming over to try to win the people. And they are a very shady lot. And they will kidnap and brainwash to the living God. So it is a very nasty place to be. And so I would say it is a great place to run a theist versus anti-theist kind of campaign. And you could be rescuing somebody that has fallen into the clutches of the cult and tried to avoid death. There's a lot of that goes on. Janet Marie, sit down. Do not pull the cat's tail. Do not. So, sorry. The 5-year-old thinks that the cat does something it shouldn't, pull the tail. That's not a good thing. So that's that. I'm going to end it off there with this, and then we'll go into part 3 and finish up the rest of the realms. But I hope you kind of like it. It's a mix of fun realms that I've hit so far. Again, Rick M. the GM on Twitter with no K on Rick, or Rick, RICMOH 45 at gmail.com.